This is what we woke up to. No one for miles. It's just wet, gloomy, moody. Ah. This is Cornwall, the southernmost area in the United Kingdom. Home to epic adventures, deep history, and vast wilderness. My name is Luther Clayton, a young filmmaker and adventurer. I've been living in Cornwall for over 10 years. It's one of the best surfing spots in the UK. That is St Michael's Mount. I want to share with you its natural and historic wonders, the adventure at its doorstep, and the mysteries it withholds. Feel free to join me on my first diary entry. So it is the day before the trip, and we do not have the best weather. I'm still optimistic though. I think it should clear up by tomorrow, but it is rainy, and well, he'll just make it for a better adventure, I guess. I'm excited, guys. I'm excited. I'm really excited. Alright, today is the day that we are going to be traveling around Cornwall. I'm taking you with me, and you're going to learn some stuff. We're going around Cornwall. The plan is to road trip around Cornwall and surrounding areas for 6 days. My mum is here to experience the adventure with me, but also helping to keep everything in order, as mums do. We decided to stay in the southern areas for most of the trip, beginning the journey at one of my favourite towns in Cornwall. We've entered our first destination of the road trip. It's been good. We've been lucky so far. The weather has been on our side. It rained for a little bit, just a sprinkle. And now the sun is out, the seagulls are flying, and we're in Falmouth. Falmouth is a small fishing village situated right next to the River Fal, which goes into the ocean. And as you can see behind us, lots of boats. And we're planning to go into the centre by boat, so it should be really fun. I've never done a park and float before. That's a completely different thing. Park and ride, park and float. Just follow the green lines, they will get you to the sleeper. We were told to follow the green lines and we'd make it to the boat. And you know, even being in the outskirts of Falmouth, you could sense the overall seaside fisherman atmosphere. Crystal waters, the bobbing of boats, a jellyfish floating to the surface. Just the small things made this place special. The boat inn immediately proved to immerse you in the Falmouth life. Yes, there were tourists, but tourism is a huge factor in the economy of the area, and I feel having tourists there put a bright light on the hustle of the town. We are now in the heart of Falmouth after getting a really awesome boat ride into here. It is really interesting to see all the people going about their daily lives, and there are tons of tourists here, but I'd like to show you around. We're going to go into the National Maritime Museum and check out the history of Falmouth. It's a beautiful place. We're not allowed to film with the DSLR in the museum, so we're going to sneak in a little GoPro.
This ought to be called tattooing the peach, because that's what Mr. George Birchett is doing. We used to think that only sailors patronized the art, but ladies have found its uses too. After all, what's more permanent than tattooed eyebrows? so long as one knows where to draw the line. And to reduce the lipstick bill, why not tattooed lips? It doesn't taste and it won't come off. And perhaps that's the drawback. After all, a change of color is desirable sometimes, like the girl who wore green lipstick when she went out with a traffic cop. Now, gentlemen, keep your eyes open on the beach this summer. You never know your luck. And by the way, I want you to know, the lady has a charming smile.
Now, I don't know how to describe the experience of the museum. I've been there before, seen the exhibits many times, but what caught my eye this time was the story. The stories of pirates and their tattoos. The stories of war out at sea. How people rode the ocean before modern boats were around. Despite seeing it all in the past, the story I experienced today was quite different. Maybe it was just that I listened more.
We are going. Our embargo's off at last. Favourable breezes blowing, bend the canvas o'er the mast. From aloft, the signal streaming. Hark, the farewell gun is fired. Women screeching, tars blaspheming, tell us that our time's expired. Here's a rascal come to Tarscall, prying from the custom house. Trunks unpacking, cases cracking, not a corner for a mouse. Scapes unsearched amid the racket, ere we sail on board.
The time came to leave the town. We arrived to the harbour in the nick of time to catch the next ride out of there. Time to say goodbye to the wonderful maritime town of Falmouth. Well, Falmouth blessed us with beautiful weather, but it is time to carry on down the road.
The rain started between 2 and 3, we were coping quite well, and then everything got out of hand.
You couldn't even hear because of the hailstones hitting the windows.
So it was an awful day.
Big clean-up underway after heavy thunderstorms led to major flooding in the coastal village of Coverack in Cornwall.
The couple who were airlifted to safety.
You can see this shop behind me. They've taken out all the carpets, a lot of the stock, in fact pretty much all the stock has been damaged. We saw them coming out with that earlier on, and certainly very emotional scenes here. This all happened last night about 5:30. A major emergency was declared.
But it went up to 5'6" inside, so everything on the downstairs is ruined.
But there is a real determination by the people who live here and by the council to work as hard as possible to get things back to normal as quickly as possible.
I gave a commitment last Wednesday to the people that we'd be here for weeks rather than months, but we wouldn't leave until it was finished. At that stage, I couldn't believe we could turn it around in less than a week, which is what they've done. 6 days on, we've turned an earthquake zone into a very polished surfaced tarmac highway, which has been marked. They've even marked the white lines in the car park.
2 weeks after the disaster, the road was opened to tourists, and we were presented with the sight of a well-recovered yet still recovering little village. The roads that were once scars, now smooth and newly paved. Grassy banks, perfect for sitting and watching the sunset on, were destroyed. But now, new turf laid, the banks are back to their brilliance. Shops open for business despite the tough times they've been through. The small fishing boats sat innocently in the harbour. It was like a little paradise. Of course, there were signs of damage still lying there, but the sheer speed of recovery was phenomenal. We were lucky enough to talk to a few locals as we wandered curiously through the village. One man, Marshal Dagger, was kind enough to delay cleaning up his damaged shop and answer a few questions.
Well, I'm Marshal Dagger, and along with my daughter Kate and my wife, we own the old mill shop here, which is a gift shop in the lovely village of Coverack. Well, it affected us very badly because we've had problems with the sea coming over in the past, which we've always been able to cope with for the last 16 years without getting flooded here. But on this occasion, the stream on my left, because we had 4 inches of rain in about 2 hours, the stream filled up and ran very quickly and was coming, instead of going under the road, was coming over the road. We had an awful lot of water coming down here, down this side, and in fact it burst. There's a house behind our shop, it burst their back door and the flood water came right through their house and out of the front of their house. So we had a torrent down there, a torrent down here, and we are the lowest point, so it pooled in this area, and it was well, you can't see the granite posts behind us, which are about 3 foot high, 4 foot high. It was at the top of those, the flood water, so it was sort of 3 foot or so inside the shop, and it burst. We had a flood board in, we had big garage doors which came across, we had these internal doors closed. It burst the internal doors, and the wave of water went inside and knocked over the counter and lots of other things and destroyed lots and lots of stock. It wasn't just flood water, it was water mixed with mud, silt, sewage, and in fact 2 oil tanks were washed down the stream. So two oil tanks were situated in front of the shop here, plus an upturned garden shed which is about 6 foot from where I'm standing now, and the oil tank, one of the oil tanks was leaking domestic fuel oil as well. So it was quite a cocktail of not very nice stuff which all came in. Everyone has been absolutely amazing. The emergency services on the day, the fire brigade, with about 20 firemen in this sort of area here, they were going around all the houses checking. And indeed here we had, my niece was still in the shop and the water was rising, so the fire brigade got her out. She wasn't in any danger, but she had, this is the only way out, so they insisted she came out, which obviously she did. We then lost, the following morning when we could get in, we could see the scene of devastation. No, we've never been flooded here. We've been here 16 years, and the previous people were here 25 years before us, and neither of us were ever flooded. No, this is the only time the shop has ever flooded. Well, we've done, in 2 weeks, we've done what would have taken, I think, normally at least 2 months in rebuilding. We've rewired the whole ground floor, we've put a new ceiling up, we've put all new lighting in, we've built a new counter, because all the display units were all destroyed as well as stock, so we've had to build new display units. And the gentleman who just left 5 minutes ago, and who is called Terry Thompson, has been terrific. David Ellis was another one who's very good at carpentry, he's been helping us, and other people as well. Everyone's been marvellous. It's a pleasure. I hope it never happens to anybody else.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Visiting the village was a time that I'll never forget. This was an incident at the peak of summer, happening in a village that relies heavily on tourism, all created by a little running stream and a few hours of rain. Coverack is small, like really small. I'd never heard of it prior to the incident. But despite this, despite the potential of setting the village's prosperity back for weeks, if not months, what brought this town around was the community, its spirit, their strength. And that inspires me greatly.
Alright, so the tent is all set up, our sleeping systems are out, and it's now time to cook some food, and then we're gonna probably go off on another adventure farther out from this campsite. But first we need a cup of tea. We're now back on the road after having a brilliant little dinner. We had a cup of tea, and also we made some really yummy soup and rice sort of stew thing. Now we're off back on the road to another destination, hopefully to watch the sunset. Although it is overcast, but there are some areas of blue sky where the clouds have sort of broken away. So we hope that there will be a nice sunset, and we're off on our way to Lizard Point, the most southern point in the UK. So that will be really interesting to see and experience. I've never seen it before, so it should be a great experience. Today has been incredible, going to Falmouth and Coverack and getting to talk to some of the locals. Absolutely astonishing day. I really enjoyed it, and definitely an adventure to put in the diary. Awesome. It's currently 4 minutes to 8, and look at this wonderful view. We're here at Lizard Point, and that is the most southern point of the UK. It's awesome. The nature here is really unique. It's actually quite wild, considering that all this here is abandoned, not used anymore, but nature has kind of taken over, and it really shows the raw power of nature. Right up here is a nest. You can hear them. Up in this corner of this old abandoned lifeguard watch house. Right in the corner up there is a nest of probably swallows. So that is incredible to see. Well, here, even the old ruins are used in nature now. Here is a little rock pipit. The cliffs behind me have a really diverse amount of plant life. You can see there are so many species, I really can't list them all. They are truly incredible, and the amount of birds and the wildlife that live inside there is also incredible. We've even seen birds that I can't even name. I can't identify them because I just don't see them in my area.
Diary, I think the main emotion I'm feeling right now is gratitude and appreciation. I appreciate the sunny spells in the weather, the beauty we get to experience and will experience more of. But most of all, I appreciate the hard work my mother is putting into making this possible. Road trips aren't always fun, and we'll see how hard it can get later in the week when we decide to travel up north.
Well everyone, it is wrapping up, the light is fading, and nighttime will be here shortly. It's been a wonderful day today, adventuring, seeing all the natural beauty and learning a bit about the history of these different areas of Cornwall. But I need to get some rest for more adventure tomorrow, so better zip up.
Good morning everyone. It's very windy, stormy and rainy outside, but the tent has held up quite good. Had an alright sleep. There are lots of helicopters going by, and then the storm was really strong. But overall it was a good sleep. I think today will be full of rain and full of wind, but we'll try and make the most of it and have a fun adventure.
Okay, we just finished up packing away the tent, and just as we were putting it in the bag, the rain came down. Look how much rain there is. It is raining hard. But it is almost time to head off and start our adventure for today. It'll be a very wet one, but hopefully we can find some fun out of it. Now packed up our camp and we're back on the road. We're off on our way to a beach called Porthleven. We're going to have a look around. It is very misty, very rainy and very wet, but we hope it will be fun. There won't be as many tourists because of the rain. Off on our way to Porthleven. We're now at Porthleven Harbour. You can see behind me, it's a really interesting one. Quite different from all the others. It's kind of wide and large and not as many boats around. And it is a really nice small fishing village. Really awesome to see. Pretty much the traditional Cornish fishing village. And Porthleven is well known and infamous for its surfing. There is a prevailing wind coming from the west here at Porthleven, and that causes swells with waves up to over 2 meters high, and it is highly regarded as one of the best surfing spots in the UK. Although I don't surf, it would be definitely really fun to come here and maybe get in the water another day when it's not as overcast and raining. Hey seagull! We're gonna just walk about, have a look around Porthleven, maybe show you a few things. It should be good. Here is a cannon. Now this would have fired cannonballs out to the ships that were attacking the harbour. And as you can see, you can really picture how it would have been back in the 18th century when ships would be coming in. They would be shooting this cannon that's sitting here right now. You can really picture the rough sea and how dangerous it really was. It's crazy. And here we, on this wall, this is in remembrance of the sons of Porthleven, right here. And it says, remembering Fred and Edgar Giles. They were the sons of Porthleven who perished in the Titanic disaster, April 15th, 1912. Now, the Titanic's maiden voyage was from Southampton to the destination of New York, but as you know, Titanic never got to New York. And these two men, the sons of Porthleven, perished in that disaster. I think if it was a sunny day, if it wasn't a rough day like this, it would be difficult to picture the true story that is behind this harbour and this little village. There is a lot of history here, and it's incredible. Whew, it's a rough sea. Definitely don't want to go surfing in this sea. Come here to Penzance. It's just a beach quite close to Porthleven, but we're not going to stay here for long. You can tell it's super windy and super wet, but it's a beautiful place. It's really mysterious over there. What I find funny is they have the swimming flags up. So I guess if you did want to go swimming, you can, but it's a bit stormy. Well, today St Michael's Mount is closed off, probably because one of the tide, and two because it's quite stormy, so they don't want to bring boats out. But what is quite funny, even though St Michael's Mount is closed and the services are closed, the flags are up, so that means you could in fact swim to St Michael's Mount if you wanted to. I am drenched. Right, as we dry up with the fans full blast, we're gonna drive over to our last destination of the day. We can't really do too much as it's super stormy, but we can still have fun. So we're driving to our last destination, which is going to be Penzance. We've booked a B&B there so that we can charge up batteries and have warm showers and warm beds for the night. But it's right on the coast, and we're going to go around Penzance, have a look about, see what we can find, and explore. And it should be good. But first we've got to find this B&B. Despite it being stormy, despite it being misty and cloudy, I've really enjoyed this. It's been a great experience so far. And I'm really glad we were able to come out on this road trip and experience more of Cornwall and take you guys along with us. We checked the weather forecast and it seems to be hopeful. Tomorrow should be windy, a few spells of rain, but also a bit of sunshine. But then the last day, so Friday, we should have a lot of sunshine to then experience the rest of Cornwall. It should be good.
One of the activities on my mum's to-do list was to visit the Penley Museum and Art Gallery. When we arrived in Penzance, that's exactly what we did. You know, I never quite understand art galleries. The art is awe-inspiring for sure, but I feel quite uncomfortable being in a room where you can only whisper, stare at a painting, and you're not allowed to film. I respected the rules though, and afterwards we went into the gardens outside the museum to embrace the small things in nature. After exploring the gardens and more of the coastline of Penzance, we entered Wharfside, an area with all the traditional Cornish shops and cafes. This is where I had my first vegan Cornish pasty.
Most iconic food.
Now, I wasn't given permission to film in the B&B, so I don't know how I'm going to include it in my film. But before the evening wrapped up and the night set in, the clouds and rain decided to pass, and my mum and I decided to make the most of it and watch the sunset over the ocean.
Right behind me here is St. Michael's Mount. We tried to see it earlier on, but the storm was too strong and it was too foggy. But even though we're even further away, we can see it clearly now. That is St. Michael's Mount.